You're listening to Live and On Board with Tony Milazzo.
This is Tony Milazzo, and you are live and on board with Johnny Cardinale.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Great to be here in the marina.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we had planned to go out for some boating, but the weather has not been good, so we are safely here at the Yacht Club and just going to chill out with Johnny for a little while.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions for you.
Please.
First of all, I wanted to ask you where you were born.
Cleveland, Ohio.
In Cleveland?
Cleveland Heights, which is about, right in Cleveland. And then I lived in Euclid, which is 5 minutes from downtown Cleveland.
Oh,
and I must say, a lot of great comedy people seem to come from the general area. Tim Conway, Bob Hope, Arsenio, Drew Carey, who's obviously put us on the map.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So we don't have any good sports teams. But
So you were raised there?
I moved out to California when I was 10 with my parents. Not to L.A., but to a little farm town called Calamasa, about a couple hours east of L.A., and that's where I grew up, and that's where I stayed until I moved to L.A. to get away from that small town and come see what Los Angeles had to offer.
And when was that? When did you come to L.A.?
Oh, quite a while ago. I can't even remember, but I dropped out of college, put it that way.
Okay. Well, when did you first get bitten by the comic and acting bug?
Well, it's funny because I was probably bitten once, but it didn't draw blood, to use an analogy, because I came out here because I liked it, and then I came out here and I actually just kind of unwound for a few years out here, not doing comedy. I did improv, actually. I did improv right away. First week I got out here, I joined an improv group, and I go, oh, I really like this. And then I did some singing, songwriting around town, and I said, oh, I really like this. And then I joined a sketch comedy group, and that was it. That was the greatest thing I ever joined. It was 13 of us. We would get together, we'd write, produce, and direct our own shows, put them up all over Hollywood. And then that crew and that's all I wanted to do. I said, let's just keep together and maybe we'll, And then that crew kind of fell apart. One guy moved back home. The director started dating one of the actresses in the group.
Yeah.
So it just kind of fell apart. And then I was left sitting there going, now what? But
Keeps you sharp.
It really did keep me sharp being on that thing. I miss it, actually, to this day, because we would rehearse 5 times a week. I was never sharper. It helped me as an actor, as a person, as a, writer. Certainly helped me as a writer. But all of a sudden you're by yourself, and I go, well, I don't know how to join another group like that, so let me just start doing stand-up. So in some ways I sort of fell into stand-up, even though I maybe came out here thinking I might do it. That sketch group was like all I wanted to do, but it just led me, whatever the path may be, it took me to stand-up comedy, which is what I've been doing for a while now.
Right.
Yes.
Great. I wanted to ask you about some of the highlights or achievements that you've had in your career thus far. What stands out in your mind? And
couple things. Getting picked up by Mitzi Shore, actually showcasing for Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store. The person who, discovered all the greats, Roseanne Barr, Jim Carrey, and on upwards. I literally caught the tail end of I guess what you'd consider the glory days of the Comedy Store, where she used to still show up and watch showcasers. And I went in, I showcased for her on a Sunday. I had 3 minutes. And you walk past her after you're done showcasing, and she doesn't even look up, and you're like, oh, she doesn't like me. At the last minute, she looks up. Okay. Oh, no. She didn't. Hold on a second. I showcased 3 minutes. I walked past her thinking she was going to stop me, tell me I was great because I had a pretty good set. She didn't. She didn't even look up. I'm like, well, I suck. She hates me, and that's it. So I called in the next day to the Comedy Store, because that's what you're supposed to do, just to call in to hear that, Mitzi didn't say anything, so you're not picked up.
Like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. So I called in the next day, just doing my proper, follow up, and they said, Mitzi wants to see you again next week for 6 minutes. I'm like, oh, wow. She actually watched what I was doing. So I was like, oh, no, now I'm still... So now what do I do? So next week, Sunday, I went back, I did 6 minutes. The first 3 was the same, and then I added 3 minutes. And then I walked past her again slowly, because she sits right at the back of the club as you walk out.
Right.
You're hoping she's going to stop you. And she didn't. She didn't even look up again. I'm thinking, man, this sucks. I don't even know what I'm doing wrong here. But I called the next day again. This was on a Sunday, and then another Sunday. Called on a Monday again. They go, Mitzi wants to see you do 10 minutes next Sunday. So third Sunday in a row. So now once you get the 10-minute showcase, this is back in the day, of course.
Yeah.
That meant you sort of really had to blow it or you were going to get picked up. It was like a big deal to get the third showcase.
Right.
You know, so I got that 10 minutes, and I felt like I had a great set. But this time I'm walking back going, I get it. She's not going to look at me. I understand. And I walk past, and she stops me at the last minute and goes, "Congratulations, you're a paid regular. Call Scott tomorrow and give him your availability." I'm like, oh, my God. Because that's the moment when you're validated by somebody that you used to just read about before you even got into, before you even moved to Los Angeles. You know, you heard about, I used to read a lot about stand-up comedy. I knew she was Pauly Shore's mother. And,
Tough customer.
Tough customer. It took Gary Shandling, I think, about 9 years to get picked up by her as a regular. And he was a very successful writer, like Welcome Back, Kotter, things like that. He was a very successful writer before, and then he decided to do stand-up, thank God, because he's hilarious. But it took him a long time. It's just, you know, it was a nice validation. And then, you know, I toured with Pauly Shore. About a year and a half later, I just get a phone call at home. "Hey, Johnny, Pauly, give me a call. I wanted to talk to you about something." Now, what's weird is I get this. He never really talked to me at the Comedy Store, and I'd see him all the time. But at the time, right before this, I had started a Comedy Store softball team. You know, they used to do one way back in the early '80s, and David Letterman, I think, was the coach. You know, he was the one to put it all together. So I said, I'm going to start one because it had long been dormant. So I just put a sign-up sheet, thinking maybe if we get 12 people to sign up. We had like probably 40 people sign up. You know, now that doesn't mean everybody shows to every game, but all of a sudden I'm like in charge of all these people. And Mitzi Shore's assistant, Scott, goes, "Hey, why don't you talk to Pauly? Maybe he'll give you some Weasel T-shirts or something, you know, from the Weasel and stuff. We'll be the Weasels, the Comedy Store Weasels." And I go, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to ask him, though. Why don't you ask him, Scott? You know, I'm not going to go, 'Excuse me, Pauly, young comic would like to, you know, get some free..."
Some shirts.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's not my place to ask Pauly. And then, when he left me that voicemail, I'm like, Scott must have said something. He's going to give me some T-shirts. That's awesome. So I called him back up, and he goes, "Wanted to see if you wanted to go on tour with me." I'm like, "Oh, this wasn't about T-shirts." So he was like, apparently he had been watching my act and stuff and knew who I was. So about almost a year to the day he asked me, we went on tour. So that whole time I'm thinking, oh, he forgot about the tour and we're not. And all of a sudden I get a call later. Okay, we're getting ready to go. So I toured with him in Vegas and some dates around Southern California. You know, nice theaters. Usually about 1,500 seaters. You know, and for a guy who'd never performed in front of like more than 200 before that, it was pretty, for obviously a very young comic, you know.
Yeah, great experience.
It was a great experience. Yeah, it was amazing. My dad came to the show in Vegas, and just happened to be the one show where I did really well. So it's like, thank God, you know.
The one show.
Because I had to tell him I was dropping out of college and move out to L.A. to figure myself out. And I was an accounting major, and I was a very good student, so my dad had my future all mapped out. All right, in a couple of years I won't need to worry about this guy. He'll have money and a future and career. All of a sudden I put a... Dad, I think I'm going to move up to L.A. And I dropped out of college as a junior. So, yeah, accounting major.
You were an accounting major. Do you ever regret that? Or?
I do regret not getting my degree just because I think there's something impressive. Anybody who's ever gotten a degree I'm impressed with because it's completion. You know, I don't regret leaving college to pursue my dream, and I would tell anybody listening to this podcast, if you're not doing what you love, stop, especially if you don't have any ties and you're young and you can go. Just do something wild and change your life just because, you know, you only live once. And my dad told me that when I told him I was dropping out of college. He goes, "Hey, man, it's a long life. You got to go choose what you want to do." It was very wise, sage advice. And had he not been so, like, if he had given me a hard time, I don't know if I would have dropped out of college. He made it easy for me to come out here, and it's the best thing I ever did. And even he says it now, you know. So
Heck yeah.
I do regret not getting my degree because I just like to have it. I think it'd be kind of cool. And I've often thought about just going back, night school or online school, and just getting it. Just so I have that thing, you know, I can put up on my wall.
Yeah.
But not being an accountant was the best thing I ever did. I would, you know, I'm not cut out for being an accountant. I was doing it just because I thought it would make me money. That was the only reason I was going for it. The last reason you should do anything in life.
Right. Any other headlights or?
Well,
headlights? Did I say
headlights. You said headlights, but
Any other
hey, are you
highlights?
staring at my girlfriend's boobs right now?
Woo!
Was that a faux pas? Sorry. She's sitting. My fiance actually. She's sitting right next to me.
Well, why don't we go there since we just went there?
Yeah, it's. I'm still getting used to the term fiance. We've been engaged for what, less than 2 weeks?
Yeah, maybe. I think it was 2 weeks Wednesday.
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Today is.
So it'll be 2 weeks this Wednesday.
Just right. So it's just under 2 weeks. Yeah. So still getting used to that term. Yeah.
Right.
I proposed we went for a long hike with our 2 dogs up in the hills of Brentwood, and with just 2 dogs and God as our witness.
Did you get down on one knee?
I did.
Like
I did. My knee was hurting too because there was rocks there. I didn't really plan it out very well at all. And she could probably tell you I kind of jumbled my words and it was very unpolished. But
did you pause or just say yes right away?
Oh, she paused.
Well, I kind of thought he was joking. Like not like a joking like haha, like we were laughing about it. Like I think I was just in like pure utter shock. And so I was like, "No, really?" Like and then the tears started coming and then I sat on his knee, so I'm sure that didn't help the rocks.
Yeah, I remember my knee was like killing me, but I wasn't going to move her.
And then he had to say, "So is that a yes?" And then I was like, "Yes." So
wow. That's nice.
I kind of put her on the spot because I was so like casual about it that she thought, "Are you pulling a fast one on me right here? What's going on?"
It started as, "Well, I guess it's as good a place as any."
Yeah, that's what I said. I meant to say that in my head, but I said it out loud. I go.
Very romantic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
So
it's only 2 weeks, so I'm not sure how many changes so far, but
quite a few.
There are, huh? Besides, well, you were living together or no?
Oh, we've been living together for 3 years.
Okay, so there's
not. So really, not that many. I just
not like the toilet seat and that kind of stuff, but
no.
What kind of changes?
she leaves her clothes lying all over the house, but hopefully that'll change at some point. I'm kind of one of those. You finish this up, you put it away. I'm kind of a neat freak. But I lived for years by myself in a bachelor and a studio apartment where you have nowhere. You are wherever room you're in. That's what you're always looking at. So when you live in a studio apartment, you always have to keep it clean. Otherwise, you're just living in filth. Here, you have a bedroom. Now we have a bedroom. You can stick it all in there, and you still have your living room nice and clean and livable. Yeah. So I just got used to cleaning up after myself, like probably a little over the top with that.
Now, I'm thinking down the road, you'll be touring. You guys will be together. Who knows if there'll be little bambinos. I don't know what you guys are doing, but how's that going to affect anything as a comic on the road?
Well, she knew coming in what I did, and I was traveling a lot, especially when we met, and so I've traveled a lot in our 3 years. I've been all over the world actually in our 3 years. So it's been a couple times. It's been great because she's been able to come with me on tour. Boston, Seattle. If I have like a college, like on a weekend, where we can go do the show and then go see some things. We just went to Prescott, Arizona. I had a college there on a Friday. Was it Friday?
Yep.
Yeah, Friday. And then we just took the whole weekend, went to Sedona, and man, Sedona's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
So when we can use that to our advantage, my ability to travel, we do, for sure. But yeah, there are certain thoughts you're like, plus as you get older, you don't want to be gone all the time. I'm back and I'm in LA. I'm auditioning a lot, and I'm also really kind of hitting the voiceover world quite a bit, auditioning a lot for that. So, it's kind of nice to stay home and not have to go leave all the time. It gets kind of old and it gets expensive flying and driving, and it's not an easy life.
No,
it's I'm not gonna lie, it's fun for a little while. I've driven cross country 3 times by myself, and I don't mean just a straight drive. I'm talking from California up to Montana, all the way to Kentucky.
Stopping at every
by way of because I'm doing colleges all over. I do clubs too, but these are mostly college tours. And I'm honestly, one time I did a show. This is the craziest thing. I had a show at a college in Nazareth College, I think it was called. Sounds real religious, but it wasn't. They drank a lot there, and I had a show there on I think it was a Wednesday night, like a 9 o'clock show. And then I had one like 3 days later, I think in New York. So, all right, I got time. 3 days later, I'll just, I pointed to you even though we're on a podcast. Nobody could see me because Tony's from New York. But, and then I get a call from my agent like a couple days before this gig in South Carolina. And they go, hey, we had this other show, the school that wants to book you for the very next night after your South Carolina gig, and they'll pay you $2,500. And I go, I'll take it. Before I even just book it, and then I thought I'll figure out how to get there afterwards. And then I started doing the math. I'm like, holy smokes. So I had this great show in South Carolina. It ended around 10:15. The show ended. And then there was a big party that night on campus. And these people all wanted me to hang out. And, hey, come hang out, you know. It was fun. And one of those nights where you're like, thank God I'm a comedian who does colleges, because you can hang out with all these college kids that are just having a great time. And I said, guys, I got to go. I got off the stage at 10:15. By 10:30, I was driving. I drove all through it was about a 14-hour drive. I drove all through the night.
Incredible.
I think I pulled over somewhere, outside of like a Super 8 hotel and slept in my truck for like an hour.
Yeah.
And then finally I pulled into New York. I think this show was in Hoboken, New Jersey. It was in Hoboken. I forget. It was like a kind of a Fordham. Was it Fordham University, or is that in the Bronx? I lose track. And yeah, it was for
Fordham. Yeah, Fordham's Bronx.
Is it? Okay, so it was a different one. But it was like a sort of a tech school where very intelligent, privileged kids go. Right. Usually very tough audience, because they're, stuffy, and they've come up with but they were prospective students. They were still in high school. And I get there, and it was literally the worst show I've ever had in my entire life. I wasn't on my game. They were a tough audience. They were heckling me from the moment I took the stage, and I wasn't handling it well. Sometimes you handle it well, and you turn the crowd around on your side, and I wasn't. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm supposed to do an hour contractually, and I've never gotten off stage early on a college. But I get there, and the guy, my representative for the college, you always have a guy, when you get to a college, hi, I'm your rep, I'm with you all night, and at the end of your show, he gives you your check. Thanks for coming out, and, this guy... This was actually a Friday night, so my show at South Carolina was Thursday night. So it's Friday night, and this guy's like, so there's the mic, there's a stage, you need anything? I'm like, no, are you going to be sticking around? He goes, probably not. He goes, I got a party to go to. This is my college rep. So it's basically just these high school kids who all know after the show where to go. They're going to their dorms. And so I got my money already, and the guy's going to be gone. So I'm up there, I had the worst set of my life. 40 minutes in, I'm like, good night, everybody. I was gone. I had to walk through all these kids looking at me because they know they got the best of me, but I went and you just feel like an idiot. You're walking through them and they're all looking at you, kind of snickering, and probably like 250 of them. And I went to a little bar in Hoboken, and I've always wanted to be in Hoboken. I'm a big fan of Frank Sinatra, and I was just like, wow, I'm in Hoboken, New Jersey. I went to a little bar, like old school bar. I sat and had a drink, and I just pulled that check because I felt terrible. You felt horrible about comedy yourself, and I pulled out that check, and I go, all right.
I feel better.
I win. I win. They won the battle. I won the war. Screw them. I honestly think I said on stage, for the only time I've ever said this on stage, it's kind of hacky, I guess, too, but I said, I don't care what you guys think. I'm getting paid anyway. I literally said that on stage. That's how bad I was that night. I apologize to that school. I can't remember who they were because I was terrible.
You have a few of those nights, huh?
Yes, you do. As you know, in comedy, man, no matter how good you think you are, yikes!
I try to forget them.
Who was it? I think Seinfeld, Steve Martin, they all say you learn from the bad sets and you get validated with the good sets. Yeah. Good sets, you're like, all right, I'm pretty good. Bad sets, okay, I need to get to work.
Since we're talking about sets, where's your next sets? Where are you going to be playing? What's coming up for Johnny Cardinale? What's happening?
Well, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but this is December 7th and 8th. I'm going to be at the new Huntington Beach, I think it's called the Huntington Beach Comedy Club. You can go to my Facebook page or my website, johnnycardinale.com, and see, but it's a new club right in Huntington Beach. It's a brand new, maybe 4 months old. Beautiful club. I'll be working with Tracy McDonald. She was a champion of Star Search about 10 years ago. She won $250 million, or $250,000, that is.
Wow.
I'll be working with her. That's this Friday and Saturday.
Great.
I'm at next Tuesday, which would be the December 15th, I think.
Uh-huh.
I'll be at the Irvine Improv doing Comedy Juice.
Okay. This might still be in post-production at that time.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, but they can listen and go, oh, well, that was nice that he did those. And
yeah.
And then...
but I know you were touring a
I'm
lot.
going overseas.
Uh-huh.
December 24th, I leave going to Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt for the holidays.
Oh.
So I'll be entertaining our troops for my 8th tour overseas.
8 tours.
8 tour, and this will be the second year in a row that I'll be gone for the holidays, Christmas and New Year's, much to her chagrin.
Yeah.
But we're going home to Grand Rapids to see her family in January, so
Summer's a very understanding girl. I like that. That's a good one right there.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing for the holidays?
I'm going back to New York City.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some shows with, I'm not sure if you know Sheba Mason.
Name sounds familiar.
Jackie Mason's daughter.
Oh, yeah, I have heard about her.
Yeah. Oh, she's incredible. Comic.
Is she?
Oh, my God. I did a lot of shows last year with her. I'm going to do a couple of shows this year with her. Get to see the family.
And not only that, but Christmas in New York, there's nothing better. I've only been to New York one time during the winter.
I can't wait to have a knish and a dirty water dog. That's what I'm looking forward to. That and getting splashed by a cab. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
right?
looking
Exactly.
for.
A little mud on the pants. No, I mean, she's never been in New York. She lived in Chicago, so she gets the gist of the vibe.
Okay.
But New York, Christmas time, man.
Hey, next Christmas you might have to come back with me, you guys. We do some shows. We plan a whole
I'm
Yeah.
dying
have fun.
to go.
That's what we do. Okay, that's
Dying.
next year, 2013.
Do you like the audiences back in New York compared to L.A.?
You know what? The difference last time, I left last year on a bad show at the Improv where 8 comics just bombed. Everybody was just sitting there with an attitude like, go ahead, make me laugh. And so I get to New York, and I purposely did the Improv thing, and it was going to be a big show, and I'm going to go off on a big note. I get to New York City. I'm trying to come off of that. I've got a bunch of new material I'm trying. Sheba Mason announces me. I walk out, and they go crazy. I almost can't hear myself. They laugh at everything I say. I'm not even sure if they were listening, but they were
Amen,
100
brother.
Oh, they were 100% on board. So that made me even more worried for the second show. Second show, the same thing. Every show I had there, they're lunatics. They are fun. They come out to laugh, have a good time. It is so different than the
Yeah,
way
I've only
back
done a few shows in New
LA.
York, and man, the energy, it's there.
Wow.
They're right on top of things. They're intelligent audience. They're fun, and then they're there to laugh. You're right. You know, not just your show, but there's plenty of times at the Improv probably more than the other clubs in Hollywood where
Yeah.
make me laugh.
You think that's a tougher room?
I think it's the
Improv?
toughest room in Los
Comedy
Angeles.
Store's a tough room too.
Comedy Store is tough just because it's wacky. And, you know, if you're really dirty and you got to get in their face and go up there with that kind of attitude, which is fine, because the Comedy Store is where I grew up. It's still my favorite place to work out.
Yeah, mine too. That's where I started.
Yeah, I like it. I like the sort of dirty dinginess of it all. But I think the Improv is much more the sit back and, you know, charm me kind of crowd, you know. Or it's just people that are so afraid of what they look like they don't want to laugh because who's looking at me? They're so, you know what I mean? They're just too cool for school kind of crowd.
Yeah.
I almost feel like if they dimmed all the lights in the Improv like they do in the Comedy Store, where audience couldn't see each other, I think it'd be a much better audience. I think people would laugh a lot more. That's why I like the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
It's if you're listening to this, you've never been to the Comedy Store. Everything in the Comedy Store is black. The curtains, the carpet, the tables,
Yes.
the napkins, the chairs, the carpet around the stage, the curtain behind the stage. There's spotlights focused on the stage, and Mitzi Shore created it that way because that way there's no distractions. You are there to watch comedy, and that's how I think it should be.
Yeah.
You know, the Improv is well lit. You're looking around. Who's that person over there? Wow, look at that waitress. Oh, what's this painting on the wall? Oh, is that a piano? You know.
Yeah, too distracting. Very distracting.
Exactly. You know. So that's just my belief too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you. Did we go over your mentors? Did you tell me any mentors or any big name famous comics?
I wouldn't be doing
or
stand-up
not?
if it wasn't for Steve Martin. Like a lot of comics, he's the one who influenced me. Like when I first heard his albums as a kid, I was like, okay, this guy is unbelievable. Half the jokes I didn't even get, you know, some of the sexual innuendo and whatnot. I liked his. And then I started watching Richard. My dad was a huge fan of Richard Pryor, so I watched him a lot. Saturday Night Live was a huge influence on me. That's not stand-up so much, but just, I don't know, the zaniness, the wackiness.
Oh, yeah.
These days, I really like Brian Regan. Now, he's been around for a long time, and I used to watch him way back when, but I've sort of, through the years, I kind of lost track, and then I've rediscovered him, if you will, even though he's been there the whole time. I generally tend to like the sillier, cleaner comics. That's just my nature. But I think Richard Pryor is the best comic ever. I love Chappelle. And, I mean, as far as influences go, though, the immediate answer is always Steve Martin, because just his zaniness, not his style or anything like that. I just love the fact that he looked like a little kid having fun up there on stage. And I just think that's, for me, that's my kind of comedy. you know, that I like to watch and do.
Yeah, he stood out for me as a kid, and Richard Pryor, of course.
Yeah, the greats.
Those are the greats.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Carlin's great too, and I appreciate his writing, but he never made me roar like these guys did.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was quite, he didn't have the silliness that, you know, I like Richard Pryor's facial expressions. I could watch him, you could probably watch 5 minutes of Richard Pryor with the sound turned down and crack up.
Yeah.
I mean, he just was that.
Incredible. Many of his videos were shot at the Comedy Store, too, on that main stage.
Well, they consider the Comedy Store the house that Richard built.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, here's another quick story I'll tell you that it's very anecdotal to what we're talking about right now. This, I don't know why I didn't come to this conclusion first when you first asked me great moments. Getting picked up at this Comedy Store was the greatest. A few years after that, you know, you've been to the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store, there is no MC. You're in a room where it's all dark and there's a piano player to the left. So when you get done with, hey, I'm Johnny Cardinale, thanks for coming out. Coming to the stage next, you just bring up the next comedian. But you always check with the piano player to the left because you see the lineup out back. You know who's coming up next. But if a celebrity pops in who wants to go up, they go right up. So you always check with the, you know, who's going up next? Tony Milazzo?
Mm-hmm.
And then...
yeah, I always have Sarah Silverman, Bobby Lee, all kinds just jump right in front of you.
Andrew Dice Clay, you know. Yeah, you never know. But one night I'm there.
What do I do now?
Well, you just bring them up and kind of call it a night. That's all. It's part of the deal. I mean, I get it. But one night I'm up on stage. It was like a Tuesday. About 100 people in a room that seats about 250. So, you know, not packed, but, you know, nice enough crowd. And I get done, had a decent set. Hey, guys, thanks. That's my time. Johnny Cardinale. I turn to piano player, Scott. Scott, who's next? He goes, he tried to whisper it. So the audience wouldn't hear. He goes, Richard Pryor. I go, what? He goes, dude, I'm serious. I go, I had to take him at his word. I go, dude, are you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Comedy Store, and so you're on Sunset Boulevard, and you never know who's going to pop in. I'm as amazed as you guys are all about to be. Will you please welcome Richard Pryor? And everybody's just like, what? They think it's a gag or something because, you know, he had MS. Two guys had to carry him up on stage. But all of a sudden, through the crowd, there is, and as soon as people started realizing, is it starting to rain? As people started realizing who it was, they gave him a standing ovation right there on a Tuesday. And I handed the mic to him, and
wow.
And then they sat him down in a chair, and then I just kind of walked off stage behind him, and I was like, oh my God, I just brought Richard Pryor up on stage, you know. And then I asked the comics in the back, I go, was he in the room when I was up there? Was he laughing while I was up there? And they go, dude, he wasn't in the room. He didn't see you at all. I'm like, nah, all right. So then I called the next...
Still an incredible moment.
It was an incredible moment, but it got even better because I called Scott, Mitzi Shore's assistant, the next day. Or no, I got a call from him. I got a call from the Comedy Store. Just left a message. Johnny C, it's Scott. Give me a call. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm thinking, did I do something wrong? And he goes, Johnny, this is Scott. Richard Pryor's going to start coming back every Wednesday and doing pop-ins every Wednesday. And he wants you to go up right before him. So for about 3 months, every Wednesday at the Comedy Store, I went up right before Richard Pryor. Isn't that crazy? Wow. This is towards the end, you know, and it was really more, his set was more depressing than hilarious because he was very ill, he was very gaunt. Yeah. But he still had that sort of talking way he did things, and so, yeah, that was actually probably, yeah, I mean, it was like the greatest moment. That'll be impossible to beat.
Yeah,
because he's no longer with us, and he's the greatest comedian of all time. So
yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, I have a picture with him and everything.
Wow, it's a big deal enough when I'm on that stage. I could kind of feel it. I know you've been on it a lot more than I have. I've only been on the main stage a couple of times, but
all the greats, they've been up right there.
Feel it when you're there. Hey, yeah, pretty inspiring.
Yeah, totally.
One other thing before we go.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. If you were able to change 3 things in life, not necessarily in yours, the world, whatever it may be, if you could change 3 things in life, what would you change?
Let's use solar power for everything and eliminate oil, which would take all the power out of the Middle East. And, you know, and boy, that's an interesting question because I don't want to do just generic stuff. I think in this country we should, let's just use this country, but maybe the world over, I think we should turn the computers off for our children and get them out outside playing catch, running around, diving in piles of leaves like I did as a kid, and maybe it would help certainly the obesity problem that we have in the country, and not to mention I think socially. I'm all for video games, time and a place. You know, let's monitor a little bit more, and go see foreign films every now and then. You know what I mean? Get away get away. I love American films too. I just saw Skyfall. I loved it, but go watch something that challenges your mind a little bit more and makes it a lot of fun and interesting to talk about afterwards. I'm trying to be eclectic, but those are 3 things that I certainly wouldn't mind seeing more of.
Great. So. Anything else you want to add before we go?
Tony Milazzo, you put on like literally the greatest. I think it's, how many times have I done this? 4 years, or I think you've done it for 5 years.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh,
the Marina?
The Marina Yacht Club benefits is 8 years. You've not only done them, like several of them, you've also done other shows here, and also the Rat Pack shows.
Yeah, the Rat Pack at the West Side Comedy.
Headliners only.
Yeah, that's a great show. But this one you put on here at the Marina Yacht Club, it is just phenomenal. Here's a funny story too, and then before we leave, when her and I met, we met out here, and then she was just out here visiting. Then she went home, and then her and I literally chatted online for a year and a half before we ever. I was happy to be back in her town, so we saw each other back there. And then she said, "Hey, I'm going to come out to California, you know, so her and I could figure things out, you know." So at this point here, we had met once, we had chatted for a year and a half, and then we had hung out for 3 days. So now she's coming out to California the very night that I was doing one of your shows here. So it was a Saturday, and she was driving in with her sister from Phoenix. They were going to get in time to make it to the show. So I told her, go to the Marina Yacht Club. I'll be there. And, you know, I kept thinking, is she going to blow me off? Because we don't know each other that well this time. But I'm doing your show. And then I never see her, and I'm getting ready to go up. And I think we're texting. And her and her sister went to some other Marina Yacht Club. They were driving around this. I'm thinking they're blowing me off.
This is actually not even called Marina Yacht Club.
Yeah, I know. It was my fault. I called it the wrong thing.
So we're looking. And we're driving down all these roads, turning around. We're like, where the heck is this? And we keep getting out of the car and going in these places. We finally went into this one place that was titled What He Said.
Marina Yacht Club.
We get in, we're like, yeah, we're here for a comedy show. And this like really bizarro guy was up front. He's like, whoa.
Security guard.
He's like, you're looking at him.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my God, this is so not it. We have to leave.
First day in California. I'm trying to get her to come here. I'm thinking she's blowing me off. She's driving all around here. It was the most chaotic evening.
Crazy.
Yeah.
She obviously eventually found you.
We never made it.
No, they never made it here.
Back up in Santa Monica at one of his local places.
Yeah, I told him, go to the Lobster, my favorite restaurant, the Lobster, right on Santa Monica. You've been there? Yeah, it's awesome. I go, we'll meet there. But that was the night that she came here back into town. That led to her moving here.
Was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, your show 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that funny?
So I finally made it to this one.
Yeah, it didn't even dawn on me till we were just talking about it just now.
Well, since we're talking about the Yacht Club and Marine, and next time we're going to get out on the boat, weather conditions are better.
Yeah.
I know you're kayaking now, you said.
Yeah, we have a dually kayak, and we paddle out right past the marina, actually, right past the yacht club here. We look at it all the time, and we go out there. We don't get too far out in the ocean. Somebody's a scaredy cat over here, and yeah, but it's a blast. It's
How many times have you gone out so far?
Probably like 3 or 4. Yeah.
She'll be ready for the ocean after.
Yeah, I mean we got to shut it down pretty much with the weather getting a little cooler, but you know, all the rays. You see all the rays floating around in the marina right here. Then you get out there and the sea lions. I mean, you get right by them. They're big. And
oh yeah, they'll come right up to you.
Yeah, we've seen a couple
really
dolphins.
close.
You know, it's awesome. You know, so we consider ourselves boat owners like you.
Great.
Now that we have a kayak, yeah.
Next thing you know, they're going to be a member of the yacht club too.
That's right. We'll be the only one carrying our boat in. Where should we set it? There we go. You know.
Not anymore. Now we have kayaks joining, and paddle boarding is huge. So
yeah, actually, you know, we see more paddle boarders when we're out there kayaking than anything. Yeah. There's a ton of them out there. Yeah.
Well, next time we're going to do this interview on his kayak.
That would be awesome. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Yeah.
Or maybe a big yacht with a caterer and a band or something next time.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Summer likes
You know what?
I'm with her.
We could call it the kayak yak. Yeah, the Kayak Yak Fest.
I'm liking it. I'm liking it. That's something we're going to have to do.
Yeah, totally. That'll be a first.
Well, I want to say thank you to Summer.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Johnny Cardinale, for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Always.
A lot of fun. And we're going to have you back. You'll come back.
Always.
And we're going to see it's more rap.
Anytime
shows.
Tony Milazzo's got something going on, Johnny C is aboard.
Oh, God.
We've had some great times through the years.
I know. I love you, Johnny.
Yeah, I love you too, brother.
Okay, right there.
Yeah.
All right. Johnny Cardinale with Tony Milazzo, live and on board.
This show has been produced by Tony Milazzo, Elyssa Infurna, and David Ringwald. If you'd like to be on board, check us out on Facebook at Tony Milazzo Entertainer, tweet us at Tony Milazzo Live, or snail mail us at P.O. Box 10074, Marina del Rey, California 90295.